Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vandeyam Shri Guru Shiyata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vidam Scha Om Jnana Timaranda Shagana Jana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Gurva Bistam Supurakam Gurganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Abhidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Cha Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanam Suchanavaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishvara Shidaram Vanshakopatarubyas Chankripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavenebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So Ramachandra Puri criticizes the Lord. So this is where Ramachandra Puri comes to see Mahaprabhu. Pranam, verse number 63. Pranam kore Prabhu koila charana bandhan Prabhure kahaye kichu hashiya bhajan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances to Ramachandra Puri, worshipping his feet. Then Ramachandra Puri smiled and spoke to the Lord. Sanyasira dharmanahi indriya tarpan jaichitaiche kore matra udara baran. Ramachandra Puri advised, it is not the business of a sannyasi to gratify his senses. He should fill his belly some way or other. Tomare kina deki shuni kora ardashan a shushka vairagya nahi sanyasira dharma. I have heard that you have cut your reading in half. Indeed, I see that you are skinny. Such dry renunciation is also not the religion of a sannyasi. So Ramachandra Puri, he's a Vaishnav Ninda. He just looks for ways to criticize the Lord and the devotees. Jata jogya udara bhare na kore vishai bhog sannyasira tabe siddha hoy jnana yoga. A sannyasi eats as much as necessary to maintain his body, but he does not enjoy satisfying his senses materially. Thus, a sannyasi becomes perfect in his spiritual advancement in knowledge. All Ramachandra Puri can do is advise people about eating or eating too much, eating too little, sleeping. All he can do is criticize the Vaishnavas. He has actually no spiritual content. Nati ashnato piyogosti nachaikantam anashnata nachati swapna shilasha jograto naivacharjuna yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. Now he's quoting Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna said, my dear Arjuna, one cannot perform mystic yoga if he eats more than necessary or needlessly fasts, sleeps and dreams too much or does not sleep enough. One should eat and enjoy his senses as much as necessary. One should properly endeavor to execute his duties, and one should regulate his sleep and wakefulness. Thus, one can become freed from material pains by executing mystic yoga. So here, there's advice given for sense control. But the real substance, of course, is that it is useful knowledge to know about controlling one's senses. But the real purpose of doing so is to be able to worship the Lord, worship the Lord's devotees, free from material disturbance. Lord Krishna said, "My dear Arjuna, one cannot perform mystic yoga if he eats more than necessary or needlessly fasts, sleeps and dreams too much or does not sleep enough. One should eat and enjoy one's senses as much as necessary. One should properly endeavor to execute his duties, and one should regulate his sleep and wakefulness. Thus one can become freed from material pains by executing mystic yoga." Prabhu ko he agya balak mui sishya tomar more shikha deho e bhagyamar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then humbly submitted, "I'm just like an ignorant boy, and I am like your disciple. It is my great fortune that you are instructing me." Ita shuni Ramachandra Puri uti gela bhaktagana ardashana kori puri gosai shunila. Hearing this, Ramachandra Puri got up and left. He also heard from various sources that all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were eating half as much as usual. Aradin Bhaktagan Saha Paramananda Puri Prabhupashin Nivedila Doinya Vinoi Kori. The next day, Paramananda Puri and other devotees approached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great humility and submission. Ramachandra Puri Hoy Nindaka Swabhab Tarabole Anachari Kiba Habelam. Paramananda Puri said, "My god brother Ramachandra Puri is by nature a bad critic." He's a nindaka. He's actually one who criticizes. Paramananda Puri said, "My god brother Ramachandra Puri is by nature a bad critic. If you give up eating because of his words, what will be the profit?" Purera Svabhava Jataishta Ahara Karana Jaina Kai Tare Kaujaya Jatana Korea. It is the nature of Ramachandra Puri that first he lets one eat as much as desired, and if one does not eat more than necessary with great attention, he makes him eat more. Kaujana Puna Tare Koraye Nindan Etana Kau Tomar Kata Achedan. In this way, he induces one to eat more than necessary. And then he directly criticizes him, saying, "You eat so much. How much money do you have in your treasury?" Sanyasike etakao jana koradharmanash ateva janinu tomar kachunahivash. Also, by inducing sannyasis to eat so much, you spoil their religious principles. Therefore, I can understand that you have no advancement. It is the nature of Ramachandra Puri that first he lets one eat as much as desire, and if one does not eat more than necessary with great attention, he makes him eat more. In this way, he induces one to eat more than necessary, and then he directly criticizes him, saying, "You eat so much, how much money do you have in your treasury?" Also, by inducing sannyasis to eat so much, you spoil their religious principles. Therefore, I can understand that you have no advancement. So he feeds the Vaishnavas too much, then he criticizes them, then he criticizes them for feeding him too much. Also, by inducing sannyasis, meaning himself, to eat so much, you spoil their religious principles. Therefore, I can understand that you have no advancement. Ke kaiche vyabahare keva kaiche kai e anusandana teho koraya sadai. It is Ramachandra's business to inquire always about how others are eating and conducting their daily affairs. Shastre jay duidharma korache barjan se karma nirantara ihara karan. The two kinds of activities rejected in the revealed scriptures constitute his daily affairs. Paraswabhava karmani na prasamshena karayet vishvam ekatmakam pashyan prakritya purushena cha. One should see that because of the meeting of material nature and the living entity, the universe is acting uniformly. Thus one should neither praise nor criticize the characteristics or activities of others. One should see that because of the meeting of material nature and the living entity, the universe is acting uniformly. Thus one should neither praise nor criticize the characteristics or activities of others. Taramadye purvabidi prashamshachariya paravidi nindakore balista janiya. Of the two rules, Ramachandra Puri obeys the first by abandoning praise, but although he knows that the second is more prominent, he neglects it by criticizing other. The above-mentioned verse from Srimad Bhagavatam gives two injunctions. The first, called Purvavidi, is that one should not praise, and the second, Paravidi, is that one should not criticize. As will be apparent from the following verses, the injunction against praise is less important than the injunction against blasphemy. It's not so important that one should not praise others, because that is of the two things, that is less important, but one should not blaspheme or criticize others. One should carefully observe the Paravidi, although one may neglect the Purvavidi. Thus the actual injunction is that one may praise but should not criticize. This is called Shlekshokti, or a statement having two meanings. Ramachandra Puri, however, acted in just the opposite way, for he neglected the Paravidi but strictly observed the Purvavidi. Since he avoided following the principle of not criticizing, Ramachandra Puri broke both the rules. Purva prayor madhye paravidir balavan. Between the former rule and the latter rule, the latter is more important. Jahangana shata ache tahana kore grahan guna madhye chale kore dosha aropan. Even where there are hundreds of good qualities, a critic does not consider them. Rather, he attempts by some trick to point out a fault in those attributes. Even where there are hundreds of good qualities, a critic does not consider them. Rather, he attempts by some trick to point out a fault in those attributes. Ihara swabhava ihan korite na jujai tadapi kohiye kichu marmadukapai. One should not therefore follow the principles of Ramachandra Puri. Nevertheless, I have to say something against him because he is making our hearts unhappy. Iharabachane keniyana tyaga kora purvavat nimantrana mana sabara boladara. Why have you given up proper eating due to the criticism of Ramachandra Puri? Please accept invitations as before. This is the request of us all. Prabhu kohe sabe kene purire kora rosh sahaja dharma kohe teho tarakibadosh. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, why are all of you angry at Ramachandra Puri? He is expounding the natural principles of sannyas life. Why are you accusing him? Jatihaya jiva lampatya atyanta anjay jatira dharma prana rakite ahara matrakai. For a sannyasi to indulge in satisfying the tongue is a great offense. The duty of a sannyasi is to eat only as much as needed to keep body and soul together. Tabe sabe mele prabhure bahu jatna koila Sabara agrahe Prabhu ardeka rakila. When they all requested very fervently that Mahaprabhu take a full meal, he still would not do so. Instead, he responded to their request by accepting half as much as usual. Dui pana kodi lage prabhura nimantrane kabu dui jana bhokta kabu tina jane. The cost for the food needed to invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was fixed at 2 panas of kodis, 160 conch shells, and that food would be taken by 2 men and sometimes 3. Abo jana vipra jadi korani mantran prasadamuya loite lage kodi duiban. When a Brahmin at whose home an invitation could not be accepted, invited the Lord, he would pay 2 panas of conch shells to purchase the prasadam. Bojana vipra jadi nimantrana kore kichu prasad ane kichu pak kore gare. When a Brahmin at whose home an invitation could be accepted invited him, the Brahmin would purchase part of the prasadam and cook the rest at home. Pandita Gosai Bhagavanacharya Sarvabhauma Nimantraner Dine Jadi Kore Nimantran Jasavar Icha Prabhu Korana Bojan Tahan Prabhur Swatandra Nai Kaichetanarman. Even on a day when Mahaprabhu was invited to dine by others, if Gadadhar Pandit, Bhagavanacharya or Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya invited him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had no independence. He would accept their invitations as they desired. So even on a day when Mahaprabhu was invited to dine by others, if Gadadhar Pandit, Bhagavanacharya or Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya invited him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had no independence. He would accept their invitations as they desired. Bhakta Gane Sukadite Prabhura Avatar Jaiche Jogya Tahan Korana Vyabhar. Bhakta Gane Sukadite Prabhura Avatar Jahan Jaiche Jogya Tahan Korana Vyabhar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually descended to give happiness to the devotees. Thus he behaved in whatever way fit the time and circumstances. Kabu Lokikariti Jaina Itarjan Kabu Swatantra Koran Ishwara Prakatan. Because of his full independence, Mahaprabhu sometimes behaved like a common man and sometimes manifested his godly opulence. Kabu Ramachandra Puri Hoy Britya Prai Kabutare Nahimane Deki Trina Prai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes accepted Ramachandra Puri as his master and considered himself a servant, and sometimes the Lord, not caring for him, would see him as being just like straw. Ishwara Charitra Prabhu Budera Agochar Jaha Jay Koran Se Sab Manohar. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu behaved exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, beyond the restriction of anyone's intelligence. He did whatever he liked, but all his activities were very beautiful. Emata Ramachandra Puri Nilachale Dinakata Rohegela Tirta Koribare. Thus Ramachandra Puri stayed for some days at Nilachala Jagannath Puri. Then he left to visit various holy places of pilgrimage. Tehogeli Prabhurgana Hoila Harashita Shirera Patara Jena Parila Achambita. The devotees consider Ramachandra Puri to be like a great burden on their heads. When he left Jagannath Puri, Everyone felt extremely happy, as if a great stone burden had suddenly fallen from their heads to the ground. Swachande nirantara prabhur kirtananartan swachande korana sabe prasada bhojan. After his departure, everything was happy once again. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted invitations as usual and led congregational chanting and dancing. Everyone else also accepted prasadam without hindrances. Guru Upeka Koile Aiche Falahoy Grame Ishwara Parjanta Aparade Tekoi. If one spiritual master rejects him, one becomes so fallen that he, like Ramachandra Puri, commits offenses even to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jajapi Guru Bhuje Prabhu Taradoshana Loila Tarafala Dwara Loke Shikha Koraila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not consider the offenses of Ramachandra Puri, for the Lord considered him his spiritual master. However, his character instructed everyone about the result of offending the spiritual master. Chaitanya Charitamrita Amritera Pura Shunite Shravane Mane Lagaye Madhura. The character of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is full of nectar. Hearing about it is pleasing to the ear and mind. Chaitanya Charitra Liki Shuna Ekmane Anayase Babe Prema Shri Krishna Charane. I write about the character of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. O readers, please hear with attention, for thus you will easily receive ecstatic love for the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. The character of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is full of nectar. Hearing about it is pleasing to the ear and mind. I write about the character of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. O readers, please hear with attention, for thus you will easily receive ecstatic love for the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. Shri Rupa Raghunath Parijara As Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishnadas. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishnadas narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya-lila 8th chapter, describing how the Lord reduced his eating in fear of the criticism of Ramachandra Puri. Hari Harai Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama. Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatha Manana Mohan. Giridhari Gopinatha Manana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Echai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Echai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaoite Vignana Shabishta Puran. Jaoite Vignana Shabishta Puran. Echai Gosai Jarmui Taradas. Echai Gosai Jarmui Taradas. Tasabara Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tasabara Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame More Abilas. Janame More Abilas. Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Antya-lila Korila Prakash. Radha Krishna Antya-lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyash. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyash. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Dagora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhariju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Sananda Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jiva Gopal Bhattadash Raghunath, Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati, Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagwat Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Vishvavarenya Jayam Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Kuladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Shyam Kuna Radha Kunda Kalandi Yamuna Jo Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.
Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan Maharaj Ki Jai.